And during that time frame, I was actually able to close out all of those cards, and it brought my credit score down to 325. I don't think anybody has ever had such a low score. I don't have the paperwork with me because I'm not at home, but I would love to show you because that joint was real.
Welcome back to What's Up With You, everybody. Tonight, we got my man Anthony about that wallet. And we discussing the facts and fictions, truths and myths about credit cards and any other financial information he wants to give us. So before we get into that, the giveaway went good. Y'all didn't see that on YouTube. Maybe y'all see it in the reel. Today's show is brought to you by the I Am Chels X store. Go to www.iamchelsxstore.com for the dopest inspirational t-shirts, merchandise, mugs. I'm going to end up putting some cell phone cases on there. You can get this dope shirt right here. All we have is now, baby. All we have is now. Anthony, so
Yes, sir.
I always start my show off before we get into your specialty. What's up with you?
Everything is good. Because I've been doing my lives lately, so I always make sure I have my drink for every show as we go through. Usually, for my live shows, I always make sure I have a lovely drink because apparently my guests are saying that I'm a little bit more relaxed when I have something to drink, and the information comes through a little better. So we'll see how
Okay.
this rolls out.
So this is what I propose then. I have water. It's a drink.
Right.
I propose.
Okay.
You and I have never spoken before. You know what I'm saying? This is
Nope.
our first time
Nope.
speaking. So I
Yes,
propose
sir.
the official first ever What's Up With You toast. Bing!
Uh, this is white rum mixed in with some stuff, so
Oh yeah?
bear with me. Oh yeah, my guests know that I usually drink heavy on my shows, so we're going pretty up there today. So
Okay, cool.
yeah, yeah.
Before we get started into the credit cards, I need my wife to do me one favor. I need you to put www.iamchelsxstore.com in the comments so I could pin it for a little bit of time. And then we could just jump on into it. So,
Alrighty.
Anthony, my man, my first question for you in reference to you being into credit cards, how did you come to be someone who's like into credit cards enough to want to actually come on live and discuss it?
Well, one of the things about credit cards is that I've had at least 8 of them before, and when I was in a prior relationship, I allowed. This is something I'm telling myself because this is something that happened, was that I was in an abusive relationship prior, and I allowed my ex at the time to become an authorized user because I figured that, it's what, something people would do to kind of help out their significant other to kind of help build their credit so they can get their own credit. But one of the things is that um, that wasn't taught to me was to never give that person that card, even though they were authorized user. And because I gave her that card, it became a huge argument when I decided to take that card back. And I was like, hey, what are you spending this money on? I need the money to actually pay this off before the statement due date. And during that time frame, this was a lesson learned for me of like, okay, if I ever, like, this was very hesitant for me to even become an authorized user or even ask somebody to be an authorized user on my card. And I was like, okay, this is one of the lessons learned that I learned throughout having credit cards. And during that time frame, I was actually able to close out all of those cards, and it brought my credit score down to 325. I don't think anybody has ever had such a low score. I don't have the paperwork with me because I'm not at home, but I would love to show you because that joint was real. I had a credit card with Best Buy, and it was like, hey, we're going to lower your credit score. We are lowering your credit limit. I'm sorry. We're going to lower your credit limit because your credit score is at 324. I was like, wow. Um, and at that point, I was like, never again. So it took me a year to bring my credit score up from 324 to 750. And from that time frame, I was like, cool, if I can do it from a 324, which has usually they say like 300, like three, no, four something is like the lowest one, to be under that to go up to 750, I think I've done something pretty good there. So that's why I'm here today.
Yo, wow. I've never heard of anybody with a score that low. I didn't know it was pop. I thought you got 400 points for existing. You know what I'm saying? like,
Right.
like the SEC, like you get your name right, they give you some points.
Right. Right.
Yo, that's crazy. Now, did you just put her on one card, or was she on all eight of them?
She was on because two I kept to myself. Because
Okay.
I was like, as I realized as her spending habits were changing, I was like, cool, let me add her to another one just to kind of help her out. Because her credit score at the time was 650. I was like, why is it 650? At the time when I met her, my credit score was at 745. And I was like, cool, well, if you got 650, shucks, I got a credit card that's been open for about 8 years. Let me just knock you on that one. And
Mm,
it boosted her credit score, but because she kept using it, and I wasn't being diligent enough to even ask her responsibilities on like, why was your credit score was that low? That's one of the things that hurt me.
wow. Well, the people in the comments are just as amazed as I am because I've never heard a story that bad in terms of credit. But based on what you said, my assumption is that the proper way to do it, if you want to help somebody, is to put them as an authorized user, but don't give them the card.
Correct. Correct. Please do not. Don't even. You know what? You can say, "Hey, your credit." Like I can, like because I just as a FYI for people who follow me, I haven't talked about this at all on any of my shows yet. Is that my niece? I mean, not my niece, my cousin. Call her. She's young enough to be my niece. Um, but my cousin, recently her birthday came through, and I was like, you know what? Let me gift you a credit score because she was going through some stuff, and I was like, you know what? You got your credit score back up to I think a 630 at the time, and I was like, you know what? For your birthday, I'm gonna gift you $20,000, but in the form of a credit card and as an authorized user. But for me to do that, I had to pay $75. So I was like, you know what? $75 for your birthday. I'm gonna gift you $20,000 as a birthday gift as an authorized user to help you build your credit. And I was like, for 3 months, you're on there, no problem. All you have to do now is just keep doing what you're doing. And I'm just saying thank you, to continue to do what you do to help you build your credit because our family wasn't talking about credit openly. So I was like, you know what? This is for you. And this is my gift to you as I'm going through this process. And this is something that I learned through that process. So this is the third person that I actually did as an authorized user. And I have to say it's been amazing so far. But not giving them the credit card, but I could control everything. I still use it, but I do not hand over that credit card at all. So
Okay, so I got that. That's one
yeah,
of the first tips that I've gotten from our conversation. But you said you gave her $20,000. You mean you gave
yeah.
her $20,000 like as a gift?
I gave her $20,000 as available credit on her credit line
Oh,
because
okay.
now, as she's an authorized user, I gave her one of my credit lines that's been open for more than about 5 years at this point. So now that she has
Mm,
5 years of credit on her credit score, within that 3 months, her credit score should jump up to a 730 based on the numbers if she can maintain her pace that she's at now. So now that when she's at a 730, after the 3 months, she go apply for her brand new card. They was like, oh, you already had $20,000. Let me go ahead on and give you $20,000 on your next credit card.
ooh, you were smart. I
They
like
do,
you. I like
yeah.
you.
And when they talk about that generational wealth, this is the easiest way.
Wow, that's
The
amazing.
easiest.
That is amazing. Is there an age minimum as to that you can put somebody like, can I put my 6-year-old on my credit card?
No. There are, well, I will take that back. There are some credit cards that do have limits. There are some that don't. American Express, unfortunately, does not carry the history. So technically, you could put them on that for American Express. That's the only credit card that does not carry the history with you. So if you were to put it, say, like you had this American Express for like 12 years,
Mm-hmm.
you put them on as an authorized user, they won't get those 12 years. It'll just start fresh. But starting fresh, say you got like a $60,000 credit card, sure. They start off with $6,000 at 6 years old. And then by the time
Wow.
they turn 18, they already got 12 years of credit showing up. Assuming that everything goes straight and you did not close out that credit card.
Okay. I'm gonna love
Right.
rewatching this one. This is good.
Yeah.
This is about to be dope. Okay. So, basic question, just in general, what is the proper way for us to use credit cards?
Well, that's a loaded question. First off, I want to say that this information is for people who are good with their finances. I want to make sure I lay that out. And again, this is for entertainment purposes, so that, if you are looking to get into credit cards, make sure that you reach out to your financial. Whoops. Like I said, I'm not in my space, so I'm using something else here.
I
Trying to
dropped my
use a
joint a
makeshift
couple
thing.
weeks ago. I dropped mine. That doesn't matter. It's all good. We just keep
All
it
right.
moving.
Yeah. So right now, I would say that I'm sorry if you can repeat the question one more time. I'm sorry.
I don't know. It's escaping me now. Oh,
Right.
how should we use credit cards? Like, what's the?
Ah,
Because obviously we all know there's like a bad way to use them, which is to use them and not
mhm.
pay them. But what is the
Right.
good way? How should we use them?
Well, there are several ways. One, the very first way is that I always recommend everybody that watch the show is to first understand why you're getting the credit card in the first place. Are you using the credit card for cash back or are you using it for the points? Are you using it for vacation? Are you using it to pay back, to pay your light bill? Are you using it for your household expenses? Like, you need to figure out what exactly you want to use this credit card for. I'll give you a perfect example. For me, I'm actually, for your listeners right now, I'm actually getting ready for FinCon. I was looking at FinCon. I was like, okay, they're using Marriott as a hotel. I was like, well, who in my network on my phone has a Marriott credit card? Because I don't have one. And so somebody finally came through, gave me a referral code for that. Because I used that referral code, instead of locking in that 50,000 points that I would normally get just for spending $3,000 in 3 months, I'm able to get 75,000 points just for using that credit card for $3,000. Then on top of that, I was like, now how am I going to get there? How am I going to fly there? I was like, cool, I would like to use Delta. So I asked around. I was like, who has a Delta credit card? Because I'm like, why should I spend the money and then lose out on those benefits? I was like, well, who has Delta? So many people came back with the Delta credit card, so I applied for those. Unfortunately, I didn't get them, but I already had a Southwest credit card, so I was like, cool. Let me use the points I already accumulated for Southwest. So now I get to fly to the trip completely 100% free. All I had to pay for was just the taxes. And so the taxes on that trip is $20. So I'm able to fly to FinCon for only $20 out of my pocket because I already had points saved up from a Southwest credit card that I use on a regular basis. And that's what I use it for domestic flights is Southwest.
So this is a serious question. Like,
Mm-hmm.
are you like a mathematical genius wizard? Like, are you one of those people?
Not at all. Not at all. It's just a strategized thing because I gotta say, once I understood what was available out there when it comes to credit cards, it's just um, it's just unrealistic of why people are spending their money on things that they're already going to spend their money on. But why not reap some of the benefits of paying your credit card on time? So the credit card companies are paying you to pay on time to do what you're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
So that just like your job is giving you free money to your retirement account because you're actually doing your job. Like,
Mm.
where else can you get this type of a capital? And imagine like your sign-on bonus for your business, like for your company that you join, is already, I don't know, say like $800
Mm.
to fly anywhere you want to, or stay in any hotel that you want to, just for signing on to this company. That's what credit cards offer you, and this is one of the things that I highly recommend people to take a second look into credit cards.
Okay. Okay. So obviously we know that a good interest rate on a credit card is 0%. Sometimes you get them for 12, 18, 24 months. But if I go to get a credit card and I can't get the 0%, what percentage should I be trying to aim for if I can't get the zero?
I'm gonna be honest with you. Well, actually, I've been honest with you from the beginning. So the funny, you know how it is. But I don't even look at APRs, to be honest with you,
Really?
because if you're paying it off on time, what does it matter?
Okay, so when you say paying it off on time, are you talking about the process by where I use it for a billing period and then I pay it completely off?
Yep. So you got three different payment things that you need to focus on. You have your due date, you have your statement date, and you have your reporting to the credit bureau date.
Okay.
You need the most important one that you need to focus on is when they report to the credit bureaus. Because when you know what date that they report to the credit bureaus, you want to make sure it's paid off before that before they report it to the credit bureaus.
Okay.
You can easily the easiest way that I found out was actually pull up my credit report. And when you look at your credit report, it will tell you what date that they actually reported to them. Like Equifax is Equifax.com. Go on and set up. It's called myequifax.com. Go ahead on and set up your account if you haven't done so already. Inside myequifax.com, you can actually see what date all of your inquiries went through, when they actually sent you, when the credit card bureaus actually reported, not the credit card bureaus, the credit card companies reported to the credit card bureaus.
Mm-hmm.
And when they report that information, you can actually write that down on a calendar. And that's why I created the budget, the simple budget calendar, is that you have an option to actually write down when the statement date is, when they report to the credit bureaus, and when your due date is taken care of. It doesn't matter what's on the statement and all that fun stuff. The statement side of the house is mainly for the APR process. The credit bureau one is the one you really want to look at, because they always say you want to make sure you're under the 30%, right? That's what they normally say.
Mm-hmm.
Under that, I say you don't want a 30%. You want to keep it under 10%.
Okay.
And that's the reason why you want to make sure that you know what the date that they report to the credit bureaus. So when I look at APR, I don't even care about APR. I think I have one credit card at like 29%, 24%. I don't care about them because I pay them off all the time, and my credit score now is about 775 at this point.
Okay, so let me put a bow on this thought that I'm having
Hmm.
based on what you're saying. The proper way to use a credit card is to use the credit card to buy the things that I'm going to buy anyway through my monthly expenses, maybe my gas, my regular bills, and all of that good stuff, and then pay it off before the date that it gets reported to the credit bureaus, right?
Correct. Yes. Now, one of the things that get tricky, and one of the things that you can do, is set up your statement date to match up the date when they send it to the credit bureaus. The only way they can change that is that if you're on time with your payments. If you're not on time with your payments, they are not willing to adjust for you at all. So I want to leave that as a caveat for everybody.
Okay, so we definitely got to make sure we paying the bill on time in order to get the benefit of moving the statement closing date and the reporting to the credit bureau's date as the same date. Yeah, that kind of makes it just the whole process just easier.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
cool. Did you use credit cards to rebuild your credit after Shorty got you down in the gutter of the credit score in the sewage
Yes,
system?
dude. I, one of the things that I thought was hilarious, right, is that we all know that the credit utilization. So they use the what they call it, the UTI, the utilization of the credit. And one of the things that I told one of the companies is that how did you expect me to have a higher credit score if you're lowering the amount that I'm supposed to pay, which means that you're lowering my debt to income ratio. If you're lowering my debt to income ratio, thus slowing down my credit score, it it hurts to be broke pretty much. Like the system is rigged for you to not be profitable if you're broke.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I use broke versus poor is because broke is a state of being and poor is a state of mind. So understanding that you're broke means that, hey, I can navigate through this. There is a way out. And the way out was for me to actually negotiate with each of the credit card companies to make sure that I can actually pay the minimum that I can to increase everything. So back to the original question, which was how do I use credit cards to build my credit? One of the things that I do now is actually apply for a new credit card at least maybe once every 2 years at this point.
Okay.
Because what I try to do is match my current income at my 9 to 5 in credit cards. Because thing about it, when they talk about these emergency funds and all this stuff like that with the pandemic and so forth. Now, keep in mind, this is from my perspective of when it comes to emergency funds. One of the things is that how quickly can you access $1,000? How quickly can you get a balance transfer from one of your credit cards? Most of the credit cards will give you 18 months 0% interest on a balance transfer, which will usually take less than 5 days. Now, if you need it immediately, you can use a whole nother credit card that you have on your arsenal to pay off an emergency fund. Like, say, if your water broke, your lights went out, or something like that, because you need to get the whole electrician to come in. Usually costs about $10,000. Okay, cool. You just set off $10,000 credit card off to the side. Okay. One of the secrets, not really secrets, but this is to go back to what I was talking about, the debt to income ratio, which means, like, say if you got a $10,000 credit card that you need to have on tap at all times because you own a house, that means you at least need, and remember I said that you want to make sure that your credit utilization is under 10%.
Mm-hmm.
You want to make sure that you at least have $100,000 in credit cards. Because if you have an emergency at $10,000, you're under that 30% threshold that they always say that's good to have. But you also are under the 10%. You're under the 20%. So when something happens, you're covered and your credit score doesn't impact you at all. So could you imagine just having $10,000 just at the ready whenever you need it? And on top of that, with the market down right now, you can invest that money. There's so many things you can do with the money with the balance transfer. But yes, I use my credit cards to kind of boost me up. So I just started small. I started with a $5,000, moved up to a $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 credit cards to kind of help build up my debt to income ratio. So it doesn't look like I'm using a lot of credit, even though I'm using it for the day to day stuff. I know it went all the way around, but I just wanted to tell you the power of using credit.
Okay, I'm with you. One thing that I am wondering is I got this $10,000 credit card in case I have like a real emergency. Should I use that card at all? Like maybe like, I get gas with it so that they don't close the account, or do credit card companies not do that? They don't care. You let it sit and it'll still be there if you need it.
Most of them will let you sit. It's rare that they'll close it unless you're using a department credit card. So, like if you go get a Target credit card
Mm,
and you're not using it, they will close it out. But if you're using just a basic Visa or MasterCard or American Express, they'll just let it sit there. You'll get a ping because I recently got this. Was that like, hey, we haven't seen any utilage on this particular credit card in the last 6 months, but we saw some action, and it was like, cool. I understand because I used one credit card strictly for my car insurance. and it just pays it off, and it's auto pay every 6 months. So I already know about it. It's a one deal. It's like $1,000. So I was like, cool, it's no problem. Just pay it off.
Hmm.
That's it.
Okay, so I have this way of building credit, and I'd like to hear your opinion on it. Um, I tell people like, okay, you want to build your credit because you know how we are. We kind of like skittish of credit cards. We're like, I don't know. What I've told people to do in the past, or at least what I think is a good idea, is why don't you go to your bank, who you know where you get your direct deposit, and ask them for say $1,000 loan.
Hmm.
They're gonna take that $1,000 out of the imaginary vault. They're gonna type some numbers, and it's gonna be $1,000 in your account. And then you simply, instead of spending that money, you use that $1,000 to pay back the $1,000 that you owe them, whatever the term may be. What's your opinion on that?
Um, well, one of the things that I did, there, that is one way to do it. One of the things that I did was get a secure credit card.
Hmm.
It's technically the same thing, what you're asking for is which is a loan. But with the secure credit card is that you just say, hey, I can give you $500. They'll put $500 towards that credit and they will report it to all the bureaus. And all you do is just use it up and just pay it back. I mean, just kind of keep it simple. Now, one of the things that I kind of wish I knew and wish I would have done is to be an authorized user on somebody else's credit card.
Hmm.
It goes back to what I was telling you before, what I did for my cousin, which was, hey, instead of doing that $1,000, imagine if I had $20,000 coming out when I was actually going through some stuff. That could have boosted my credit on the other end. Even though I was working on the other stuff, but having that $20,000 with the history, that would have kept my credit score at the same while I pay for everything else. And that would allow me to have then go apply for my own credit card at that amount that the person allowed me in. So I want to change that process. Now, if you're going to do it by yourself, yes, that's one way.
Okay.
But if you have a friend or family that is willing to put you down as an authorized user, I would definitely recommend that way. You don't have to pay them at all. It's practically free. Chase, like I said, I just recently did it, and it's $75 to add an authorized user for any of the credit cards within Chase.
Okay. Cool. One of the other questions that I had for you, I saw this reel on Instagram, and there's this older guy, and he's basically saying that it's safer to use credit cards than it is to use debit cards because if I'm using a credit card and something fraudulent happens, that's essentially it's the bank's problem, right? But if I use my
Yep.
debit card and then something happens fraudulently, then it's my money. Do you
Yep.
agree with that? Like, what's your ideology on that?
I 100% agree. I'm not sure if you saw that movie Catch Me As You Can, if you can, with what you call it?
Wasn't
What's
it
that guy's name?
DiCaprio?
Yes, Leonardo DiCaprio. Yes.
I saw it one
Um,
time, but it was a long time ago. But go ahead.
okay. So the guy who they wrote this movie about is still alive, and he actually talked about what he does with it. And one of the things that he talked about was utilizing credit cards. One, because every time you swipe your card, they actually have access to your bank account to see how much you actually have available in that account. So when you look at your receipt, if you have a receipt near you, it will show you what credit card you use, the last four digits of that credit card, when you use it, and your actual name on that credit card. So he actually mentioned, and the whole, for the people who don't know what Catch Me As You Can was about, it was about pretty much identity theft and how he was able to use people's identity to travel the world and essentially and use other people's credit to do what he wanted to do. But having this understanding of not using your personal debit card is that it's all up to the bank. The banks are going to do the best interest to protect themselves than they are to protect you as a consumer.
Mm, wow. Yeah, because when he said it, I use credit cards. I got a question for you later on that I might have to end up breaking down how I use them. But then he said it. I was like, I never thought of it that. I never thought of it that way. You know what I'm saying? But it's one of those things that you know, but you don't realize you know until someone says it in a really enlightening way. And you're like, damn, like you're pretty smart.
Yeah.
So, are you into crypto?
I am not into crypto, but I do understanding the fabric of it.
You understand the fabric? You said you understand the fabric of it?
Yes.
Okay. Um, is there a link currently between crypto and credit cards? Like, can I go get a Bitcoin credit card?
Not at this point. But think about it this way. We already get, when was the last time you actually had a paper check and they actually gave you cash?
When was the last time I had what now?
A paper check and you actually got your paycheck in cash.
Oh, uh, I don't
Right.
know. I don't know.
So we already living in a digital world right now. So when it comes to crypto, hey, it's just a back end technology of how money is moved. It just moves it a lot faster than the way how we doing it right now. So the fabric of it is going to stay. As far
Hmm.
as what particular coin
Hmm.
is one of those things is who is going to be left, and that's where we at.
Okay, so do you foresee the United States government transitioning to a digital dollar?
Oh, it's already done.
I mean, like officially, because like we don't use money
uh,
but I mean like officially, like we're gonna get complete. Like they're gonna structure the economy in a way that paper money really isn't accepted unless it's just me and you, almost like a barter type thing.
right.
And they're gonna use it to say, okay, we have the digital dollar. What's your opinion on that?
Well, my opinion, and this is the reason why I haven't gotten into crypto yet, is because if, excuse me, this alcohol is pretty heavy. It's white rum in here. Uh, so
Take your time,
one of
brother.
the
Take your
things,
time.
yeah, one of the things about digital um, currency is that when they talk about trying to be anonymous and as anonymous as a dollar is, so that means like, hey, if I meet you on the street and I give you $1, there is no transaction, right?
None at
There
all.
is no bank, no what happened between you and I if I give you a paper dollar in
Yep.
hand. But in crypto, there's a wallet to wallet transaction that's being done.
Hmm.
So why would I sit up here, use my real name, use my personal machine, use my personal internet to send you money if it's supposed to be anonymous?
Mm. Good
So
point.
that means that's right. So if crypto is supposed to be anonymous and treated as the dollar, then why do you need to track it?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so my issue with the whole digital dollar crypto thing is that simply that it can be tracked. I already don't like the fact that they can track everything. If they want to, they can know where I spend my money. They could know down
Mhm.
to, the candy bar that I bought last night. Oh, he bought a Hershey bar. You know what I'm saying? Because
Especially on that
everything,
credit card,
yeah,
right?
right on the credit card. And so, but one of my other questions for you that was tied to the crypto thing is, have you done any research or any reading on the potential of using a digital dollar or digital currency as a social credit score system type of thing?
No, I have not, but I have to say that in other countries, especially third world countries, they are testing out a lot of things when it comes to the cryptocurrency. Like, imagine like having your lights on in your house. Right now, it's done by crypto, so they actually pay for their housing for their lights using crypto. And everything is done from the phone, even from just doing a taxi from the airport to whatever destination you need to within the countries. And most of them are, sadly, are in Africa. A lot of those countries are using crypto as a day-to-day means of living. So it's just a matter of when is the first world countries are going to start using them as their day-to-day. They're already using them in third world countries. If you travel more, you'll see it more. It's just in this country, in the U.S., is just slow to adapt to that process.
Americans, we don't like to be tracked. We like to have our freedom. So that's why I kind of, from what I understand, what little research I've done, China has it rolled out to where they can track most people's transactions, and I think the idea really is, or the conspiracy theory, maybe you could say, is that in order to combat climate change, if they can uh, keep track of your purchases, and your purchases are purchases that would, I don't know what the word is, affect the environment negatively, they'll turn your card off. Like, oh, you can't get no gas for the next week because you burnt up all your gas from last week, so you just can't go to work. Like, that's gonna be a
Right.
problem in America. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not gonna
Yeah.
fly.
Well, maybe there might be some regulations around it. Um, but think about crypto as peer to peer. Remember when what do they call it? Napster was out
Mm-hmm.
and all that fun stuff. So pretty much crypto is Napster. So when you were downloading a music album, you can actually see um, all of the different computers that you were getting this feed from to
Right.
make up your music. And that's the same thing that's happening with crypto. It's the same exact technology. It's just done at a bigger scale at this point. And I think it's part of the Web 3.0, and it's also part of, I really think this is going to be the new wave. But as it pertains to credit, I mean, technically, it's already a digital world at this point. It's just that how are they going to move money across countries? Which means, like, if you in the U.S. and you travel to, say, Australia, how quickly can you make that transaction happen? And how quickly will it hit your account? So, say if you swipe your card and the next, I don't know, someplace in Sydney,
Mm-hmm.
Australia, and how soon will you get an email to say, hey, this transaction just happened on your account? And it's just one of those, it's just really how fat
Mm.
is, I would say, the one of the things that's moving technology and also the finance arena is how fast can things move? How fast can you be notified? How fast can money be transitioned?
Right.
Because right now, if you take $10,000 out of your bank account, you will not be able to do that
Right.
in cash because anything over 9,000, yeah, anything over $9,999, you have to report it to the IRS that this was moved.
Right.
Now, reporting it takes time. Then you have to report moving it to X, Y, and Z. Under the new arena, if it's supposed to be cash to cash using crypto, who cares? You should know. Why does it matter?
Mm. So that's a benefit
Yep.
to the user.
To the user. Now, who are the users? I'm not going to say that one.
Oh, okay. So that's a whole nother. That sounds like a whole nother rabbit hole.
That's a whole other thing. Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you this. Have you done any in-depth research on the history of any of the banks that give us these credit cards?
I haven't. I've been focusing mainly on the FICO score and like who's reporting the information that we use.
Okay, cool. Because I was gonna ask you, like, do you know if any of the banks historically have a uh, a racist background between, we're not gonna give black people this, and then other ones are like, hey, look, dog, we don't like them either, but we down five money and they got bread. Do you know any? You kept up with any of that?
The only one I researched, because there's a documentary out about it, which is Wells Fargo.
Okay.
Wells Fargo is one of the biggest companies, and they've been around for a long time, but they are pretty up there when it comes to redlining and actually, I guess you could say, blocking a lot of the
Hmm.
different communities. So, very Christian based, very, straightforward, straight laced about the American society, all about tradition and the way how things used to be. Wells Fargo has been that way for quite some time. So they've been doing, I guess, some PR work. So if
Hmm.
you notice that they've been doing a lot of outreach when it comes to making sure that I guess you could say, lower impoverished communities that were once redlined are now being funded, and so forth and so on. So that's the only company um, that I've been looking at. I would highly recommend anybody to actually take a look at Wells Fargo. The reason why they use the horse and carriage um, as their logo and stuff like that. So it's pretty entertaining.
Oh, really? Where is it
Yeah,
at? What is it?
it's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix. Okay, so I have
Hmm.
to check it out. That's pretty dope.
Yeah.
It's another one that I don't want to say the name of the bank because I don't want to get it wrong. It might have been Citigroup or Citibank, but they were
Oh yeah, I
tied.
heard about that
I
one.
think they were tied, but this was like a while ago. Back when was it Haiti? Was it
I
Haiti
think it
or
was 80.
I don't know? Somebody fought some island of black folks fought off like one of the major European countries, and
Yeah,
then
it was probably Haiti.
it
Because
was
the
okay.
Dominican Republic is all they. The funny thing is, I always think this is hilarious because the Dominican Republic and Haiti are on the same island, but yet they treat it like two different islands every time. Every time.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look into it and get back to you on it. Um, I got this idea for reparations, and because we're talking money, I want you to hear my
Mhm.
idea, and
Okay.
because you sound like a good finance guy. So I'm more conservative at this point in my life. I have some conservative views, I have some liberal views, but on most stuff now I'm conservative. Um, I disagree with the conservatives on the idea that black people today shouldn't be afforded some form of reparations, right? But I'm also a realist. So I don't expect the United States government to be like, hey, here's your money, here's your ancestors'
Right.
money. So I came
Hmm.
up with a way that if you ever run for office, you could take this idea. Just make sure if I'm not around, make sure somebody in my
Right.
family get the check, right? This is what I
Gotcha.
think. I think, and this is just because my views are just because this is the most realist way I think it could happen. This is what they should do. They should say that for how long did slavery last? 400 years?
About yeah.
Okay. For the next 400 years, any descendant of slaves does not have to pay any taxes. So I go
Okay.
to work, right? I go to work. Let's make the math simple. I go to work. I make $100,000 a year. I pay $30,000 in taxes. I get to keep all 30,000 of that. I don't pay any federal tax. I don't pay any state tax. I don't pay Social Security. I don't pay any of that, and I still get the benefits of Social Security when I turn whatever age. And so that way, obviously, I'm not an economist, but in my mind, we're not crashing the economy because they're not just gonna cut us a check and be like, "Well, now the country's bankrupt," right?
Right. Right.
We're not crashing the economy, and they love for people to go to work. So or start a business, right? I don't pay any corporate tax, none of that. I sell my house, I keep all of it. And what it does is it helps to push the economy forward in terms of the black people. It helps push the economy because now we have extra money to invest in those things and to buy houses and all of that. What's your opinion on that?
Uh, let's see. Let's take it this way.
You about to
What
break my
is
neck
your?
now.
Well,
No, Mr. Bradley.
I wish I could lower this light. Hold on. Let me see if I can do it. All right, that's a little better. Um, one of the things is that I want to put it into perspective a little bit here. Let's think about it this way: the black community, right? We have the most influential understanding where most people will accept what we offer, but do not accept the individuals, right?
Say that one more time.
Meaning they accept what we have to offer, they accept our culture, but
Uh-huh.
they do not accept the individual.
Got you.
Meaning that they love rap music, but they do not like the individual person that's doing the rap music.
Right.
Like, and that's one example. So, and keep in mind that we are the minority, right? But we also the minority in education of the system. So why would they actually incentivize their highest earning potentials?
Well, If I'm understanding you correctly, my response to that is that's my issue with the relationship between the left and black folks. It's that
Mm.
it's that you incentivize failure or a minimal amount of success, and to me, that's just not the proper way to get a group of people to grow. Is to say, well, we'll only help you if you're poor enough.
That's the way society is set up right now, though.
But okay, yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I just did
Because
a
think about
podcast
it.
today on acceptance.
Yeah,
I'll take it. Cool.
right. Because think about it. Like right now, with the knowledge that I know and the research that I've done, if I was sitting here today and only making $10,000 a year, the first thing I would do is put my name in the pot for every grant, scholarship, everything that has to offer. Because one, you don't have to pay as much money as in taxes. You don't have to pay for your housing. You don't have to pay for your groceries. You don't even have to pay for your cell phone. Everything is given to you at that point. So it's like, all right, well, I'm getting all this free stuff. Now, what is the incentive for me to actually go out and do better? Why would I go out there and make more?
There is none.
Right. So that brings us back to your original question. If they give us all this money up front, there is no need for all these different policies and procedures that are put in place. There is no need for the jails that are set up right now, or the prisons, because everybody will have what they need. There is no need for these food banks or anything like that. These are billion-dollar industries that you're tapping into right now. If you solve the problem by giving everybody what they need up front.
But that's okay. Yeah, but that's if we're talking about it in terms of reparations, that's if they give us the money up front. But if they give
Right.
us the money, if I get my paycheck and the Jason ain't no taxes, I still got to go to work. Like, I mean, I make decent money, but it ain't enough for me to get one check and be like, yo, all right, beach
Well,
house.
that's why that's the other term for a job, right? It's called just over broke.
Right.
That's the whole purpose of it. So, like you said, there is no like I'm sorry, Miss Mandy
Mandy.
Beats said, yeah, which is no need to thrive. If everything is given to you at that lower point, what's the point?
Mm.
Because think about it, society is already set up for the male to not be inside the household. When you look at trying to get, and these are things I go back and I don't really go back and forth on. I just kind of accepted it, but it's like, say you had a child with a baby mama that's out
Mm.
there. In order for you and your child to eat, along with the baby mother to eat as well, you have to get onto welfare. In order to get on the welfare, you cannot have a male present inside the household.
Right.
In order for the male, you have to go out there and make out your own income. Now, say both of y'all work at McDonald's. Already, you're over the minimum threshold to need for one person, for a one child, 2-person household.
Right.
So that means that society has already capped you, which means that in order for you to grow, you're going to have to sacrifice a lot, which means that you have to already pay a little bit extra to get to the next level, which then goes on to, it just gets deeper and deeper, but because you can't even get housing because you already make too much. Section 8 housing is already capped off. So now you
Right.
have to look at mid-cap, not Section 8, I forgot what other section it is, but where you actually some counties allow you to actually make a certain amount
Mm.
for mid-cap, but you have to do the research. And a lot of people aren't willing to do the research. I'm sorry to take off on topic here, but I mean we go on pretty deep on the whole financial aspect and the reparations. But I see what you're saying, but will society actually do it? That's the other question.
Oh, the answer is no. You know what I'm saying? I
Right.
just find it fun. I just find it
Yeah.
to be entertaining and fun to come up with different ways that if I were in front of whether it's Trump, Biden, or Barack, I would say something to them and they'd be like, "Hold on, like you really thought about this, right?" And I could be like, "Yeah, I really thought about it. You should tell your people to call them people, and y'all can work this whole shit out." You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So that's just my idea. It's not gonna happen. Um,
Yeah.
Anything else specific on credit cards that we should know, just in general, that you want us to know?
Well, one of the things is that I share on multiple levels, and I know most people talk about getting credit and actually building their credit, but a lot of people don't talk about leaving their credit for the next generation. So all those points and credit card points and everything like that that you've accumulated during your time of living, how do you pass that on to the next generation? And one of the things that I want people to understand is that this is doable. One of the things is that you can do, which is very simple, is to one, have a person as an authorized user. That is one way. Second way is to actually give that authorized user the passwords to your account. So they'll have access to your account and they can actually transfer the points to their own credit card or to their flights or whatever. Um, if you have cash back, you can use that cash back to actually pay down your credit card. I mean, pay down for your funeral expenses. So you can actually say in your will that, hey, I want them to use this particular credit card to pay off my funeral home, me and my funeral. Most funerals cost about $10,000. This goes back to actually increasing your available credit to $100,000. So if it's not a matter of if, but when your time is up, they can use that credit card to pay off and pay for your funeral without any additional hurt to the family as already. And then they can actually use the points to pay or the cash back on that particular card to pay down the balance so they don't have to come up with the whole thing. And that's one of the things that I want to kind of leave off with is credit is very powerful, and credit is something that you can actually transfer from generation to generation if used correctly. So just continue to educate yourself, learn from the banks, learn from the best. Equifax has tons of information on your credit, so please utilize them as a resource. That's what I
Cool.
have.
That's definitely enlightening. So we'll leave the credit cards at part of the conversation there. We're getting towards the end, and I'm gonna let you get back to chilling on your Saturday night. How do
Thank
you
you.
want to, how do you want the world to remember you?
I want the world to remember me because one, as a person that tried their best on sharing information as they come across it. Because I'm not having any children, and one of the things for me to give back is by starting the podcast about that wallet, which is where I talk about financial behaviors and how to navigate this world of finances. So that is one of the things that I really want the world to get from that is that, hey, Anthony was doing his best. He tried his information. He spread his word as far as he could in his reach. It's up to everybody else to kind of continue it on. And I just want to thank everybody for that.
Dope. That's dope. So y'all make sure y'all follow my man Anthony at About That Wallet. Check out his podcast. I'm definitely gonna start listening to it. Now this is the part where I put you in the meat grinder. Some people do well, some people don't, and then I'm gonna let you get
Okay.
out of here.
All right.
At the end of my show, you have to tell me 5 people, dead or alive, real or fictional, that you would like to sit down and have a one-on-one intimate conversation with. You don't have to explain to me why you want to talk to these particular people. If you want to, I'm here. I'm the space. You could be the matter and fill it all you want. But 5 people, dead or alive, real or fictional.
All right. One would be my uncle, who recently passed away. I'll say about 5 years ago.
Mm.
Um, that's one. Two would be obviously we got to talk about Warren Buffett. I'd love to have a sit down with him. I think the
Nobody has said him
latest.
before.
Really?
I don't think anybody has said him. If somebody did it, it was only like one person. I don't think anybody has said Warren Buffett, but I could be wrong. I don't want to take nobody's
Wow.
line. It's my fault.
Because it's like I think the latest I saw was 19 billion to sit down with him.
That's how much it
Just to
costs?
have a lunch. Just to have a lunch with him. Well, no, I'm sorry, not 19 billion, 19 million. 19 million just to sit down with him
There's no difference
for a
between
lunch.
19 million and 19
Yeah,
billion.
yeah,
Like, how many is it? Where do the
yeah,
commas go on this thing?
yeah. I'm sorry, 19 million. Um, that's number two. Number three. I'm sorry for some of y'all who understand the Baltimore accent. I do say my twos and TEWs and stuff like that. That's right. Yeah. Uh, let's see. Warren Buffett. Number three would be. I, I want to have more in-depth conversation with my mom.
Mm.
Because as I'm going through this, I'm learning a lot through that. Number four will be my dad. Just understanding on where he went wrong. That's being honest, because a lot happens. Uh, and number five will be interesting. I know it might be controversial. It's Stalin,
Mm.
the Russian overlord that killed so many people or whatever. Is a just understanding his mindset of being a tyrant. I guess you could say in history. Like, what was his thoughts were? I wouldn't say Napoleon or Alexander, though Alexander has such a huge influence, but he was a mama's guy. Um, but yeah, Stalin.
Yes or no? What about Hitler?
Um, Hitler wasn't about the money.
Okay.
His stuff was mostly about control of society,
Okay.
and that was one of the things that was different about him. Um, the sense of control and everything like that. Just looking at a lot of things because everybody talks about Hitler and so forth. But you have to kind of think about it from his era. And granted, what he was doing was wrong, but you have to think about like how they were going about society and could things be better than the way they were. And that's mostly how I would highly recommend everybody to go on Netflix and look. Was it Netflix? I think it was Netflix. It was called How to Be a Tyrant. And
Mm.
How to Be a Tyrant actually talked about the different strategies that each tyrant has used to become empowered. And in that process, they'll talk about like different strategies that you can use in your day to day life. And that's one of the things that I'm doing now. Is one of the tactics that I'm taking from my life right now is being patient, waiting my
Mm.
time, being the yes person, and really understanding the process. And I think a lot of people don't spend enough time in that process. And that's the reason why Stalin became who he was because he waited so long. Hitler did the same exact thing. He waited his time. He listened to everybody, see what's happening, see him at the ground truth. What is happening? Why society is being this way? What is it that is grinding people gears and nobody's willing to take the face for? And that's the reason why, like, when they call about Black Lives Matter, so forth, a lot of people keep their heads down because it's like you don't want to be that front face. You don't want to be taken out because of something like that.
Mm.
And it's just the narrative. I would say the context became the content, and that was messing up right there. It was just so many different people talking into the process. I know I went off topic, but yes, those will be the five.
No, that's cool.
So
This is great conversation, man. Like I said, I appreciate you coming on. I always give my guests the opportunity to ask me a question because I picked your brain for about an hour. So it's only fair if you get to
okay.
ask me a question. If there's anything you want to ask me, this is your moment.
Yeah. So my question is, how many credit cards do you have, and why do you have those?
Oh, too many to count.
I had a person on my podcast with 27, so you can count at least
No.
27.
I don't have
Okay.
27. If
Okay.
I would have guessed a number, I would guess somewhere between 8 and 10, or seven
Okay.
and 10, or something like that. I actively use three. Okay.
Gotcha.
Um, One is for daily expenses. The other is I just got it. It's a corporate credit card, so technically, I have a corporation now. That feels really good to say.
Congrats.
Wow.
Congrats.
Yeah, that's the first time I ever said it, and it
Right.
felt like, wow,
Right.
I got a corporate
Take
credit
all this
card.
shit. You gotta drink some water on that one.
I got a corporate credit card, and so how I got into using credit cards, and I'll try my best not to be long winded. Um, have you ever heard of velocity banking?
Yes. I heard
So,
of it.
um, I started using credit cards heavily to do velocity banking to knock the principal off of my mortgage. Okay,
Okay. Yep.
so
I like it.
so so if you understand it, cool. I'll explain it for whoever may watch this so that they have an idea of what it is if they're not. And I learned it from my wife brought it up to me. I didn't really get it. A few months later, I kind of understood it. I watched some videos. This guy named Denzel Rodriguez. He's really good on YouTube. And the principle, the idea behind it is this. Say I have a credit card with a $15,000 limit, or I can go to the bank and get a home equity line of credit for $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. Right.
Well, I want to add on a caveat for folks who don't know what a HELOC is. Home equity line of credit. It's good for 7 years, and then after the 7 years, it goes back to regular. All right, that's all I'm adding there.
Cool. So what I did was, and I'll give you the real life example to the degree that I can with the math. Last year, between March of last year and March of this year, this is the way I worked my finances. I had a 0% interest credit card for, I don't know, maybe 18 months.
Yep.
When I got the card, this is what I did. Say the card had $15,000 limit on it. We'll say my mortgage payment is $2,000 a month. I used a third-party service to take that credit card with a $15,000 limit. I paid the regular mortgage payment of $2,000 plus, say, another $10,000 directly to the principal. So now the principal on my mortgage comes down $10,000 plus whatever was going to come out of that $2,000. But for a simple conversational point, instead of owing $360,000 on my house, I now owe $350,000 or whatever the $10,000 less is. Then what I do is I do that on the very day that I get paid. And so the day that shows up on the credit card, I take my whole check and I send it to the credit card. So now the balance on that credit card starts to come down. So normally the next question I get is, well, how do you pay? Do you use a credit card the next time you pay the mortgage? I don't. What I do is I take my normal payment of $2,000 out of my check. I set that aside. All the rest of my money goes to that credit card. Now, in the meantime, I'm using that credit card for all my daily expenses. So if I'm paying the electricity bill, I'm getting gas, we're going out to eat, everything that can be paid by credit card, I'm using that credit card, right? And so I'm repeating the process. And what happens is when you make that initial purchase of paying down your principal, it's high, and then it goes low, and then it goes low, and then it goes up a little bit because I gotta eat and all of that, and then it keeps going until it gets to a point where it's back down to close to zero, and then you do it again, and you repeat the cycle. I did that in quarters. I knocked $40,000 off my mortgage in a year.
Congrats.
That's the idea. So that's how I got into the credit card thing. Now I'm in a position to where I got to knock. I did it twice. I used 2 cards. So now I'm chunking off of a whole nother card. I was so sick of going on my phone looking at it. I got to get this thing off of it. You know. So, but yeah, that's how many I have, and that's how I use them.
Okay, I like that strategy because a lot of people do that that I've talked to use that same strategy for the student loans, and they call it chunking instead of versus velocity banking. Yeah, because velocity banking, most people talk about they using their whole life policy when they talk about velocity banking.
Okay, so I paid a good amount of money to consult with Denzel Rodriguez, who's the guy on YouTube. I'm not getting paid for this. I respect the I respect the guy, right? And so he calls that it's not velocity banking, it's infinite banking.
Infinite banking. Okay, yeah, somebody just mentioned it. Yeah. Well, your wife just put it in there. Yeah.
Infinite banking. And so when I talked to him and I had all my money situation lined up, and he would he basically said, based on the amount of money you make and the amount of debt that you have and the amount of time it's going to take you to chunk all of it off, you're not ready for infinite banking. The way he explained it, infinite banking is really for people who have pretty much eradicated debt, and now they're creating their own bank through the life insurance. And so you understand infinite banking?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah,
that's a whole nother podcast.
Right, that's what I was gonna say. You don't have to go into it. But the one thing.
So go ahead.
Yeah.
So what it is, the whole idea about infinite banking is, for those of you who don't know, when you have a whole life insurance policy, it's for you while you're alive. You can actually use it while you're alive, and what it is that you're borrowing against the amount of money that you actually put in. So essentially, you're paying yourself back to pay for the things that you actually borrowed against. So that's essentially what it is, and which means that you become your own bank, and that's what the whole life policy that's kind of the short version of it.
Yeah.
You can go in detail. Listen to your prior podcast with the other guy to kind of talk about that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I do have one question on that. Then I'll let you get out of here.
All right, now you good.
The way he explains it, it's like you don't even have to worry about paying the loan back if you don't want to, because you would just if you had $1 million policy and you borrowed. Let's make this thing simple for me. If you had $1 million policy and you took out $100,000, you borrowed $100,000 in cash value or whatever the case may be, you don't have to pay that back, because when you pass, your beneficiaries are going to get 1 million minus whatever you borrowed, which would be $900,000, and then you're your own bank, really. So if you need a car, you just be like, "Oh, I just borrowed. It's my car."
Yeah, that's essentially how it works. So that's the whole purpose of the whole life policy process. Yeah, so pretty much you leave a lesson to people. Like, people think like, oh, he got $1 million policy. We're like, no, he used this, and this. Like, you got about $10,000 left. That's how it works. Yeah. So you got to go.
All right, cool. Well, they popping fireworks, so I'm gonna get over here so it's not in my recording. I appreciate you, man. I love you, black man. One thing I have to bring up whenever somebody comes on my show and they got a gap like I do, I love your smile. I appreciate it. You know what I'm saying? We keep it tight around here. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
So
awesome.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna hit you in the DM after this, and we'll catch up later. All right.
All right. Thank you so much for letting me to be on your show.
My man, no problem. Y'all make sure y'all go follow at About That Wallet. Check out his podcast. Is the name of the podcast About That Wallet?
Yes, sir.
About That Wallet podcast, available on all platform outlets, all podcast outlets, correct?
Yep, and YouTube.
My man. I'm gonna go subscribe right now. Y'all be good, Anthony, my man. I appreciate you, brother.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Peace.
All right. Peace.